Hello, and welcome to the SAP HANA Academy. My name is Dennis van Kempen, and in this video tutorial, I will show you how to enable and configure SQL Trace in SAP HANA Studio. SQL Trace can be enabled using the Trace Configuration tab in the Administration Console. This is the most user-friendly approach. Alternatively, you can configure SQL Trace in the Configuration tab. This allows for even more control. Additionally, you can enable and configure SQL Trace using the SQL statement alter system. This can be useful for scripting purposes. I have started SAP HANA Studio and opened the Administration Console perspective. I am connected as the system user. You can connect with any user you want as long as the user can access the Administration Console and in particular has the Trace Admin system privilege, which you will need to enable and configure SQL Trace. In the Administration Console, select the Trace Configuration tab. There are several different types of trace that can be configured here. For this tutorial, we will focus on SQL Trace. As you can see, SQL Trace is currently inactive. You can configure SQL Trace by selecting the pencil icon in the right top corner. This will open the Trace Configuration dialog. First, we need to set the trace status to active. Next, we set the trace level. We have 5 options. Normal will trace all statements that have finished successfully. Error will do the opposite and trace all statements that returned an error. Error rollback will trace all statements with error that involved a rollback of the update, insert, or delete statement. All means the sum of normal plus error plus rollback, and all with results is like all, but then with the result set returned from each select statement. Be careful, SQL Trace with trace file level all with results can grow in size very fast. For this tutorial, I will select all with results. If you want, you can change the trace file name. The default pattern is shown here. Next, we can apply a user filter on a database or application user. For the database user, you can use the folder icon on the right to select the user from a list. For application user, this is not possible, obviously, as this is not managed by SAP HANA. We can filter on objects like tables or views. We can filter on applications. Just like the application user above, some applications set the environment when connecting. SAP HANA Studio, for example, uses application is HTTP Studio. If you know the application or application user that is set, you can configure focused tracing here. Finally, we can filter on statement type. We have the following options. DML or Data Manipulation Language, select Insert, Update, Delete. DDL or Data Definition Language, create table, drop column. Procedures like SQL script. Transactions, commit or rollback. Alter session, alter system. I will leave only DML and DDL selected. Flush limit is a more advanced setting. It defines the number of messages that are buffered before the trace is written to disk. Notice that you can open the help screen with the question mark icon here below. If you then click the configuration traces link and make the screen a bit bigger, you'll get the documented tracing configuration from the SAP HANA administration guide. I will close help. Click next to review the summary of the settings we've made. Notice we selected a database user. We have set trace level to all with results, and we have set statement type to DDL and DML. Click Finish to start the trace. As you can see, the trace is now active. The warning icon is a reminder that writing SQL traces might have a notable performance impact on the database system and will also consume storage space on disk. So leaving the SQL trace enabled all the time is not a good idea. For this reason, you will even find a warning on the Overview tab. I've prepared a simple script that creates a table, inserts a row, performs an update, a select, and then drops the table. All statements were executed successfully. Go back to the administration console, select the Diagnosis Files tab to see all trace and log files. Filter on SQL, and here's our trace file. The context menu or right-click allows us to open, download, or delete the file. This file is small, so we can open it, but if your file is very large, use download instead. The file opens at the end. You can go to the beginning of the file using this selector. To find our work, we have to use the search facility. It's under the Edit menu, Find Replace, Ctrl F, just like any other application. Enter My Table. Here we have our Create Table statement, tracing logs connection ID, transaction ID, client process ID, client IP, user, and schema. The timestamp is in microseconds. Insert, update, select, and our result set. Click to close. To disable tracing, open the Trace Configuration dialog again and simply select Restore Defaults and finish. In the Diagnosis Files tab, we can then delete the trace file from the context menu. A second, more advanced way to enable SQL Trace is using the Configuration tab. If we filter on SQL Trace, we get the relevant parameters: application, application user, level, statement type, trace file name. Note that there are a few more options here. We can set a file size limit. Default value is 1.5 GB, and we can set a maximum number of files. Default value is 1. These default settings avoid that a trace file can fill up the entire file system. By default, we can only have a single 1.5 GB trace file. To edit the value, double-click the row and enter a new value. Notice there is no syntax check. If you make an error, most likely there will be no tracing. So let's turn tracing on. Set the user to system and set statement type to system. You can see that default values have been changed by the green light. And if we return to trace configuration, we can see that tracing is enabled again. If we open the editor, we can see our changed values here. Database user system, statement type system. Let's make one more change that will be easy to identify in the trace file. I will set the flush limit to 1 to 3 and select finish. Select Diagnosis Files, refresh, Ctrl F, 1, 2, 3, find, statement found. Alter system, alter configuration. This brings us to the third configuration option, using SQL statement. I have copied the statement from the trace file and added some line spacing. You can use this in a script. To disable a parameter, either set it to a blank value or use the unset modifier. Okay, in this tutorial you have seen 3 ways how to enable and configure SQL Trace using SAP HANA Studio or using Alter System SQL statements. Thank you for watching.